Okay,
Oh,
hold on.
are we?
Hold on.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 second. It's just waiting.
The word
Waiting.
live appears on my screen. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on a delay. I'm just making sure that it's live on YouTube.
Right. There's a 20-second delay between us and YouTube.
Live.
Okay. Hi, everybody. We're live, right? Alex is behind the scene today, so I just need to double check. We're live, right, Alex? Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to, yes. The J says yes. Okay. We are still new at, well, we have a new behind the scenes controller here today. So thanks for hanging in there for who's ever been waiting to get on. And we apologize for any inconvenience. So anyway, here we go. So today, welcome to Gordon JCC Tuesday Talks. And we have a really special guest today, so I'm very excited. And I just want to remind everybody that you can send questions in on the YouTube as you're watching, and we will get them, and I will be able to address your questions. So feel free to comment, ask questions, and interact with us. So that would be great. Today's guest, I'm just going to dive right in and just know that Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tuesdays we have Tuesday Talks, Thursdays we have music. So please stay tuned to the Gordon JCC YouTube channel. We're bringing live entertainment and intellectual stimulation to your homes every week. And today definitely is something to dive into on many levels. So today our guest is Laura Huff. And Laura Huff Hileman, is that just, let me interrupt and ask what you're like. I have you down as two names.
Well, okay, my legal name is Laura Huff Hileman, but my dream name is Laura Huff because I'll shift back.
Oh, okay. Okay. Just want to get that right. So Laura, today is Laura, because I know her in many ways, and I'll get to that in a little bit. But Laura Huff is a certified dream consultant and spiritual director. And I'll just read a little bit about her. She's passionate about teaching dream work to individuals, groups, and organizations. Whether or not you remember your dreams, you can tap into this metaphorical practice to pick up valuable insights from your wisest self. And who couldn't use any of that right now, okay? I can. I'll just speak for myself today. I'll try. She has been tending her dreams since she was a child and discovered in her mid-30s that dream work was a real discipline, something to learn about and practice. She dove in headfirst, training at Hayden Institute's 2-year program in dream spirituality and apprenticing under Dr. Ben Curtis in Nashville. She followed that with another 2-year program at Hayden Institute, earning her certificate as a spiritual director so she could do better listening and contextualizing of the work of the faith world, which she's going to dive into Judaism and dreams, right? Correct? Right? Yeah, this is going to be really interesting. Sure. She continued her training with a master's in psychology at Lipscomb University and also has a master's in English from Vanderbilt University. And she has a website called Fire by Night, where and in that if you go there, and what it says there is, when do we need dream work? Always. And I agree. Dreams gift us every night because every day matters. And when you're facing turning points like midlife crises, which I feel like I had been through one, I feel like I'm on the other side, but we'll get to it. Health challenges, work and retirement choices, relationship issues, sexual orientation and gender identity questions, and discerning how to serve the world. Your dreams give you precious insight. So she has a dream class. She has dream groups that are coming up, and you can join in on them. And she'll tell you more about that a little bit later. That's how I met. First of all, I met Laura. I think it was your class at USN. She would teach at the USN evening classes, and I went to it because I have a background interest, a lifelong background, self-taught interest in Jungian dream analysis and Carl Jung and his whole world, his whole insight into the significance of dreams and the collective unconscious. And so that led me to Laura's evening class. And then that's when I learned about her dream classes, which I signed up for and have been attending for the last couple of months. And they're incredible. It's just, you'll understand why it's so incredible. So I'm going to turn it over to Laura so she can take you on this journey and see why the significance of learning about dreams and where it can lead you in your personal life. So Take it away, Laura, although I will interrupt you from time to time.
Yeah, and I really do want to answer questions that come up. So those of you behind the scenes, just let me know when questions come up. An hour is just enough to get a taste of what's interesting and why we do this. So Carrie, thanks for your introduction. And I think that kind of, summed up a little bit about, how I got here, what it is. But I think I was thinking about something that happened when I was 2 that really kind of gives you a picture of what it is that dreams help us do. It wasn't a dream, it was a memory. I was making cookies with my mom, and it was a little bitty thing. And for the first time, I kind of got it, that you take the cookie cutter and you press it into the dough, and it makes another shape and another shape. And there's this infinite, like infinite levels of this cookie making can happen. And I could see it, and it's like, oh, there's that physical awareness of something wonderful, which is how a dream feels. But that was that sense of there are layers and layers of meaning. And that sort of is maybe my earliest memory that naturally led to that world of myth and symbol and poetry and fairy tale and metaphor and all that multiple level meaning stuff, which dreams are, that's how they mean. They're pictures and they're feelings, images and feelings together, and they just keep opening and opening and opening the levels of meaning that's possible. So I guess maybe the first thing to talk about is, what is a dream? And you don't, a dream usually happens when we're asleep. We talk about those other things that happen, maybe as sort of those waking dreams are possible, but it's a real event. It's a real neurological event. You can look at them on the MRI. So it's this real physical waking life event or sleeping life event that is doing its job to help regulate your emotions and to lock in learning. And there are all these things that the neurologists are happy to tell us about. But then there's this other level that Carl Jung started talking about. And he was a Swiss psychiatrist, born in 1875, died in 1961. And he's the one who said, I think there's more to it. I think something is going on, that it's not just processing neurologically, it's about soul, really. And so he was this daring medical doctor who would talk about soul, which kind of earned him the dubious distinction of being a mystic. And so it's kind of hard to find him taught in psychology courses and medical world. And, he sort of straddles all these worlds. But he's saying there is deep meaning in a dream, and let's go down there and find out how that works. So I don't know if we want to talk about sort of that layered universe that Jung talks about. I'd rather maybe just for now talk about I'll tell you about the dream that got me sort of hooked into dream work, and you can see what that is. So in this I'd been sort of meditating for a while, and I found myself at the edge of a manhole cover. There's a manhole cover inside the church where I grew up. And in the dream, then what happens is I hear the manhole cover shift, and then it's moved, and there is the church sewer open below me, and I kind of jump, kind of just fall in, and I'm plunging down through this tube, that just kind of winds and moves, and it puts me out in this bright sunlit ocean, deep underwater, where I can see all this life and all this sunlight filtering through. And that's kind of maybe the image to play with in terms of what are dreams? They're these portals, that connect the unconscious to the waking life, the consciousness. And so what we do when we do our dream work is we are actively exercising that connection between the waking life and the unconscious, which is the source of so much wisdom. And so the thing that I think is so amazing is what Jung says. He says, you know, and I'm going to just, maybe Carrie, is it time for that picture? Pictures help. I don't know. Does that show up?
Oh, yeah, that shows up. That's
That
good.
shows up. What I want to just, and I'm not going to preach too long about this, but, you know, if the dream is like, I'm going to shift metaphors. If the dream is like a water lily, what you see on the top of the surface, and it comes up through the stem, and the unconscious is like the personal unconscious is like your life is the water of the pond. He says there's this thing called the collective unconscious. It's like the ground beneath. It's like the whole earth, all the dirt in the world, you know, is the collective unconscious that we share. Down there, we are made of the same psycho-spiritual DNA. It's just human. We share this kind of matrix. But what you kind of, I don't know if you can see this, there are these roots, you know, and he says, so for this, each person has a self, and he calls that the capital S self. And you can call that whatever you want to. Every tradition names it something, but it's that essence. It's that rarefied, perfectly unique divine self essence that each person has. And that is what orchestrates the dream. That's what takes out of the raw materials of that collective unconscious and your personal unconscious, all the stuff that you maybe remembered from the day and all the forgotten stuff that you have repressed or forgotten or never knew about yourself. And it crafts a dream that then emerges and blossoms. And when you wake up, there's this dream that is, like, in some ways incredibly practical because it gives you wisdom for your daily life. The next day, the things that you need to know that day is being offered by the dream. And there's this sort of mystery element because you're connected to something so deep and unknowable that it only presents itself when you are ready. So there's both that practical and mystery, the practical mystery of dream work. So we do this together because it's kind of hard to see your own stuff. So that's when Carrie talks about being in a dream group. That's one way that we share what comes up in a really respectful way. And that's basically the idea is you don't just interpret it with your mind. This is a whole body experience. You relate to the mystery is really the best way to talk about how we do our dream work. You know, and so I would like to shift maybe. Do you think it's time to talk about, like, how do you catch a dream and that sort of stuff? Or have we got some questions?
I was interested, maybe before you even go into that, to hear what you had mentioned about the aspects of, like, well, I love the idea of in times of turmoil, how people start to have similar dreams, how dreams are not just personal, but they're collective. And also, if you could speak about, I think you mentioned something about Judaism and dreams or something to that effect when we were talking.
Well, yeah. So, you know, very quickly, when we are talking about that mystery element of dreams, you know, we sort of try to figure out, well, where do they actually even come from? And so people language that differently. And I love hearing when I'm working with dreamers, how do they talk about that sense of source? And so some people are going to talk about it in psychological terms or in sort of natural terms. And some people talk about it in spiritual or religious terms. And when you look at what's going on in the Hebrew Bible, you know, when God wants to get somebody's attention, God sends a dream or a vision, which is like a dream that happens when you're awake. And so when you start looking at that over the course of the scriptures, you see a consistent pattern of God speaks to the dreamer. It pertains to the dreamer's life, and it fosters a sense of wholeness and care for the people of God throughout. So, for instance, you know, Joseph was a big dreamer, right? And you know, he tells these dreams that sort of forecast his future, about his future greatness. They're getting him ready for a role that he might not have anticipated. And he has dreams in prison that help him get out of prison because he interprets dreams of other people. You know, but he then moves and he not only does he have the dreams, but he interprets the dreams. He has both of these qualities. And so ultimately, what his own dreams and Pharaoh's dreams about the cows and the sheaves of wheat not only help him get out of jail, but also provide for Jacob, the family, and the people of Israel during the famine. So that's the kind of thing that dreams do in scriptures.
And in more modern life, that the whole thing about when the Holocaust was happening and people in Germany.
Yeah, that was amazing.
There was a study done, right?
Yeah. So there was a journalist in Berlin in the years leading up to the Holocaust. And her name was, Berendt was her last name. What was her first name? Anyway, you can read about it. It's called Dreams of the Holocaust, I think is the name of the book that she wrote. But she was a journalist, and she was having nightmares. And they seemed to be related to the political situation and the growing threat. And so she started wondering what other people were dreaming, and had heard a few dreams just here and there from just random people who she would talk to. So she decided to do a study, and she started interviewing people about their dreams and writing them down. And she wrote them down in code. She was very careful, not to incriminate herself. And there were consistently quite a number of dreams of people who were feeling threatened by Hitler and his rise to power, the Third Reich. They were dreams sometimes of people feeling very conflicted about knowing it was wrong, for instance, to give the salute, and that they had to do it to stay alive, to stay it, but their arm would fall off, or pointing to that inner conflict between how they had to be in the waking world in order to survive and what was really going on in their hearts. And so she put together, so eventually she fled to England, I believe, or maybe it was Canada. And in 1950, she printed it and she published it in German. And then in the 60s, it came out in English. But it was pointing to the collective feeling of danger and that sense of personal conflict that was rising. So,
which kind of brings us back to what you were saying before about how dreams are like a language from our heart, too. I mean, and ultimately dreams, what you were saying, Lynn, last night when we were having that conversation on Zoom about how dreams actually lead us to wholeness and self-actualization. Would that be the right word?
Oh, Jung calls it individuation, which again is a word that's a psychology term, but you can use other language for that. But it's about being, bringing everything that you are into who you are in the world. And that it's hard to do. That's the hero's journey, the hero doesn't get the boon just to be happy about having the prize. That's just half the journey. Then they have to bring it back to the waking world, or, they have to live it and give it. And so dream work helps us be our whole self, to undergo the healing processes that we need, and then to be able to share who we are in the world. And we'll nudge us if we're not doing it. And will correct us when we are getting sort of off track. I mean, they balance us out, and if we're getting a little too full of ourselves, you'll get a dream about inflation, and you have to come back to earth where we belong and give from there.
I think the trick is that, or not the trick, but maybe even the confusion when I know when I was starting out with dreams, I mean, it speaks in like a metaphorical, like a whole different language. And that sometimes it's hard to decipher by yourself, which is why I love the dream circle, where together as a group, when hearing other people's thoughts on each other's dreams, you get this, aha moment, but to sometimes sit with the dream yourself is sometimes confusing almost, right? So maybe you could give some insight how somebody, if they weren't in a dream class, where does somebody begin to really understand? Because dreams can seem like, you could have a nightmare and you think, it's a nightmare, but not really. It's something to get you to wake up, it's something to get your attention.
Right.
So
right.
Different ways that somebody could sit with their own dreams and maybe start to really understand,
right.
what the language is.
So the first thing is you say, okay, the dreams are not trying to hide something from me. They're trying to give it to me in this emotional imagistic language. So, so don't think about it too hard first. You just sort of sit with, where's the energy in the dream for you? What are the feelings that you're feeling in the dream? What parts really sort of announce themselves in a dream? And then you can go back through, if you've written your dream down, and you can say, well, so for instance, let's see, one that I've had recently or heard recently that I can talk about, because I never talk about dreams unless I have permission, people's dreams. There was one that I had, a piano, I'll tell this piano dream in which I'm suddenly called, I'm at a concert. Oops, it's my turn to play. I had no idea I was supposed to do this. And anyway, I go down there and I sit. I know absolutely nothing. But the piano starts to, like, in the strings, there starts to be a little hum, a little tune, a beautiful tune. And so I just play what I hear. And it's very bad. I mean, it doesn't sound like anything to the audience, but I'm trying to play what I hear. And this is totally unimpressive to anybody in the audience. But so in that dream, I'm thinking, all right, remembering that every part of the dream, everything in the dream is a part of the dreamer. This is a big deal. Everything in the dream is part of you. So that ego part of me sits down and goes, I have no idea how to handle this instrument that I am. It's big, it's black, it's splendid, it's beautiful. And I think I'm supposed to master it somehow. That's not at all what this is about. It's about listening, that there's something that instrument gives of its own accord. And so that's the soul work of dreams. And that, trying to just speak to that, just by playing the best I can. That's what I'm doing right now, right? Is to try to just say, this is an amazing thing. It goes on without any work from you. And the best we can do to sort of show up in the world is to follow that tune that's inside us. So there's a metaphor. There's that sort of music metaphor of the soul will announce itself. And we just try to give what we got, what we're given. And it's not going to impress that many people, actually, because we're just kind of, like we said before we started this, we're just going to wing it, do the best we can. It's not a concert. You don't play a concert. You play in concert with that inner music. So that's just sort of a way of, playing around with the dreams. Like, what is a concert? What is another meaning of the word concert? How did I feel? I felt terrified that I couldn't perform. And then I felt like astounded that there was this inner thing going on that I could copy. So that's just sort of, running you through a dream. But you're playing with associations. On the website, there's a little, I wrote a little book for beginning dreamers, and you can download it for free, but it's got some hints and tips and ways to start. If you want to download that on the website, you can just read through some steps, but everything is a metaphor about you. So one thing that's really hard is if you're dreaming of people that there's probably something going on with that relationship of that person. If you're dreaming about your sister, for example, there's something to pay attention to about the relationship with your sister. But really, what you want to do is think, what is she like in the dream? That's an energy that I have that I need to look at right now. It's showing up in a way that I would recognize. But it's really not about her. It's about me. We dream mostly about ourselves, and we do our inner work through those dreams.
And then if you want to even go deeper, I guess, and you kind of into Carl Jung's language of, archetypes, we have the inner masculine and the inner feminine. So when women show up or men show up in our dreams, especially if they don't have names or we don't know them and can't even attribute anything to that, they're in the part of us that's the masculine part of us and the feminine part of us, which we all have, which together make us whole.
Yeah, exactly. And so to get down into the archetypes and the shadows and the complex, I mean, all that's moving. That may be hard to follow on a Zoom, but they're unconscious aspects things that we do not know a thing about that show up. So you might have a series, for instance, you know, if it's time to sort of really work on a masculine part of yourself, you might have a man show up in your dream, and you then over time, this is really important, over time, the dreams will help you integrate that masculine ability. So for instance, Napoleon descended one night from the attic in a dream of mine, where he was running this empire from, you know, up on the computers. I had no idea he was up there. But he comes down, he's looking a little pale, and he asked me would I please drive him to Kroger to get some milk. We can eat this Black Miata. So I found this was an imposition. I had no desire to interact with Napoleon, but he insisted, and he was looking kind of weak. So I had compassion on him. And in the dream, we went and got the milk. Well, when I woke up, I thought, not Napoleon. What is Napoleon doing here? You know, I don't like this guy, but I did a lot of work. He kept showing up. He kept wanting to, you know, sort of be part of my life. I didn't really like him, but what I learned was if I could, he had tenacity, and he had an
Uh-oh. Are we frozen here? Alex behind the scene. I think we might be frozen. I'm not quite sure. So I'm not quite sure. Let's see. Alex behind the scenes.
Yeah, keep going.
Keep going. Okay, because Laura's frozen on my computer.
Mine too, but.
Okay, so how do we remedy that? Okay, all right. Are you back? Okay, now I don't hear you. I can't hear you.
Can't hear me?
Oh, now I can. Okay, you were frozen for a minute.
Yeah, so were you.
So I was. Okay, all right. Sure. So we're continuing on, and we did get a comment, I see. Michael, he said, I like that play in concert. Okay, so people are listening out there.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so anyway, integrating that Napoleon energy helped me do something concrete in the world that I probably was going to just waffle around about, you know? So that's an example of using that animus energy.
And something else that you had spoken about is the importance of, in doing dream work, or really any work, is the consistency, and, you know, and you mentioned over time, because what I found in doing my own inner work, when I started the journey, your subconscious. What's that, Alex? Okay. I hear you. Is everything okay back there behind the scenes? Okay. So in doing inner work, I found that when I made that commitment to myself, my subconscious started working with me like more deeply, and started presenting itself more. And then it took me then I was actually walking down a road like within myself. And in my example of a dream, I remember in the beginning when I started writing my dreams down, I used to get tidal wave dreams all the time. And once I started writing my dreams down, the tidal wave broke up. It sort of stopped, and then it started to get more specific. So my dreams, like, I felt like my inner self knew I was taking it seriously and started to work with me in a clear, like in a new way. So so it's the journey of paying attention.
Right. It's over time. I love that example of the tidal wave. It got your attention. All that unconscious material that comes surging up. I mean, the ocean is a wonderful image for the unconscious. And once you turned your attention to it, it became a place you could be with. Yeah, you could be there without being in danger. I love that. And yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's that you're going to get something from the dream of the morning. Something will be in there for you for that day, but over time you start to really see the trajectory of your inner growth, and it's amazing. And so I like to get people to have this. You know, I used to be an English teacher, so I can get kind of bossy sometimes, but I do like people to keep a journal in a way that you follow your dream, you title it, you date it, and you also include what's going on in your waking life. You know, you make some notes about that so that over time you can see your path like you're talking about. That's really
And
going.
before you were going to mention how to catch a dream. So why don't you want, if you want to speak about that for a bit?
Right. So, you know, there's this lovely, so you dream about 5 times a night. Just those of you who say, I never dream, I know the feeling, but we are dreaming actually. They're doing their work, whether or not we, you know, participate consciously. So that's the good news. And the last thing that happens before you wake up is an extended REM period. The rapid eye movement is that deep dream sleep with the stories and the feelings, and the pictures and the colors. So what you want to do is honor that you're going to hit this liminal period. It's like being on the beach at dawn, you know, you're in between the sea and the land. You're in between sleeping and waking. And so honor it by planning for it. So what you're going to do is put a little notebook under your pillow so you don't have to grope around to try to like record the dream, and maybe turn off the alarm clock, especially now during COVID when people don't actually have to be any place at a certain time. More people are feeling a little more, they're remembering dreams more. So, so plan for that. You can set your intention the night before, you know, to remember your dream, you know, and ask for help with that. And then as you wake up, just let yourself lie there a little bit. Just sort of have a little dream wallow where you're not trying to put language on that dream. When you're waking up out of a dream, your language centers are off during the dream for the most part. And so what you experienced is not easily languaged right at first. So just memorize the feelings and the pictures and the storyline. And then you can reach under that pillow with minimal effort, jot down a few phrases or sketch a little picture, just enough to remember it later after you've got your coffee and you're sitting down and you get out your beautiful dream journal, you know, then you can get the whole story down. But, you know, there are things that impede our dream recall. Alcohol, for instance, is famous for impeding dream recall.
Amongst a lot of other things.
Yeah. So, you know, we can block our wisdom. There's also, it's true that as we age, we have fewer and shorter REM periods. So we just generally remember less as you age, unfortunately. But that's a case. But you know, if anytime your eyes are moving, if you have a sleeping partner, you can just ask them to wake you up. You know, if your eyes are moving, you'll probably remember a dream. That's what they do in the sleep centers once you're being, you know, assessed for, you know.
Were there any other points you were going to make about aging and dreams, besides the fact that you might not remember your dreams as much?
You know, in general, just dreaming across the lifespan, and I haven't looked at that in a while, but so I'm not going to remember everything. But in general, we dream a lot more intensely and more vividly and more fully when we're younger. And then when we are in crisis, like midlife, oh my goodness, I love working with midlife women because there's so much going on, and it feels like nightmares and crises, and it's just trying to get our attention, you know. And so what is shifting? Another great time is retirement, you know, because you're putting down an identity that you've cultivated very carefully. And then what? You know, no matter how happy you are about retiring, something in the ego goes, I don't know if I want to let go of that. That's my identity, you know. And like just, you know, when you've got issues you got to deal with, relationships or choices and that kind of thing, you can get some pretty practical and intense dreams to come up around that. You know, children dream a lot too about, and if you're dealing with children at all, so much of the children's dreams are disturbing in nature, and that a lot of that is attributed. So some people who study this, like Kelly Bulkley out in California, says children are so little in a world full of very big people and are constantly feeling overwhelmed by what's going on, in the world around them, in which they are relatively powerless compared to it. And so there are a lot of nightmares, and maybe you remember nightmares from your childhood in which you're dealing with things. There can also be dreams in childhood that kind of forecast where you're headed in your life. The psyche kind of says, this is where we're going. So that's something to listen for. And just go back and think, were there any dreams when I was young that really felt like they were flagship dreams? They sort of helped me know where I was headed in life in general. It does happen. Warnings. And then there's all this stuff that people don't talk about very much, but precognitive dreams, where this happens a lot more than people actually want to talk about. But once you get going, that comes up fairly frequently. We are really intuitive by nature. Carl Jung called it, we just see around corners. It's natural, and we actually know in our unconscious so much more than we know here, than we, and so that knowing shows up in dreams. And it's uncomfortable sometimes. And then there it is,
What it would be one way that you would know that the dream is like really, cognitive, and is really like prophetic, or it's saying something so directly because it speaks in metaphor. So how would you know the difference between like your usual dreaming and a dream that may be like, this is happening, or something?
Yeah, that discernment piece. So,
right.
So this is not really my big specialty, because I don't have as many, like, oh, this is going to happen to somebody, that kind of dream. However, body dreams, like what's going on in your body. I mean, I detected cancer through dreams. And so, and treatments, and then deeper treatment, like what is really the deep healing that this is an opportunity for. So that was, and it was a felt sense of urgency. I don't know how else to explain it. It was like, no, something is not right, and so those dreams were very urgent.
It's the trust your gut thing, where people always say, trust your gut, trust that first instinct, Yeah. It usually can be very quiet, so you can go like, what? But you can't, after when times when I didn't, I would be like, oh, I knew I had, something told me not to go there or do that or say that, and I did it anyway, and then I get the consequences.
Exactly. And, we have a lot of second chances, actually. If we miss something in a dream the first time, it'll come back and we'll see it again, and it'll have a little more urgency if it's really something we need to do. Some things work themselves out without our conscious participation, but other things really are demanding that we pay attention, and they'll keep coming back. Nope. I was going to say something else, but I can't even remember where that was going. There's just a sense of, just discernment. Look at what else is going on in your life. What else is moving in a way that helps you assess what this dream is really about. So sometimes there's synchronicities. You talked a lot about that too, that things that feel like meaningful coincidences happen. And he talked about a lot about energy. He talked about, so Einstein talked about how, matter and energy are the same thing. And Jung says, yeah, and psychic energy is energy. And I don't mean psychic like fortune telling, but energy from the psyche, from the soul, that does manifest in matter, and matter manifests in psyche. And so he had some really interesting ideas about that.
Have you noticed that during this time of the pandemic, because people have now had some people, not everybody, but a lot of people have had a chance to slow down a bit, or really, just get quiet, not just get more quiet. And so I'm just curious. I'm wondering if, like, dreaming, or just this time has affected people's I think it has affected people's relationship to themselves, right? And their relationship to the world. And so I guess that would be reflected in dreams or coming up. Or have you noticed more people interested to like participate? Have you kind of noticed that from your own experience?
Yeah, I was thinking that because we had to put everything online, that there would be fewer people wanting to dream, but there's actually more. You know, we're still, things are hopping over here.
Why don't you share so people know, let people know how to reach you if they want to be in a dream class or learn more about you just before, because I can't believe how quickly today's, it's going really quickly.
Questions?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so there's a book this is the only book I know of that's out, called Pandemic Dreams by Deirdre Barrett, who's a Harvard researcher. So she's not a Jungian exactly, but she was collecting pandemic dreams, and I just got it. So I haven't read it, but I'm going to do the Nashville Jung Circle is a Jungian organization in town. And we do monthly programs at the public library at Green Hills. Of course, it's all on Zoom now, but in September 20th, it's a Sunday afternoon, I'm going to do a little presentation about COVID dreams. So if y'all want to learn more about that, it's all on my website. So you can see it under, I think it's just called What's Up, What's New, and it's all on there.
What's your website address?
It's called firebynight.net.
Okay.
Firebynight.net. So you can learn everything that I'm about to say on there as well. But yeah, I do 2 series of dream groups a year. So September through December is coming up as the fall season. And we do eight meetings. It's every other week for an hour and a half. And there are openings on Mondays and Thursdays right now, Monday night and Thursday night. And then if people still need one more option, I think I would do a Wednesday afternoon session. So, and those would be new groups for people who are stepping back in for the most part, stepping in for the first time. So those are a good way to learn more. And then also, of course, I work with people one-on-one with their dreams, whether it's just one big dream that needs attention or, over time. So.
Oh, that's good to know. Right.
Yeah. So that's, and also on that website are a lot of book recommendations and resources, because I'm a big believer in learning. And so you want me to give you 2 right off the bat that I think are really good?
Sure.
So Inner Work by Robert Johnson.
I read that.
The best one. It's so good. And that's a great one. Also, this is a woman's perspective, Dream Theaters of the Soul by Jean Benedict Raffa. So that's on the website. And that takes you through the Jungian categories in a more personal way. This is one we did in the Jung Circle recently. And it's really Jung's theory of dream work and psychology. It's called Jung's Map of the Soul by Murray Stein. That's a little bit more of a heavy reading, but it's really well done. So those are 3 you can start with.
What would you say would be the first for people who really don't even, know the language of Carl Jung and all of that, but still want to access, understand their dreams?
This really spells it out with a lot of examples.
Oh, okay.
Storyline. I mean, so it's a woman telling her dream story, using the dreams and telling the Carl Jung sort of categories. So that's a really good book to start with. And this is just a slightly more, he's just so wise. He goes deeper. It's just, you've read it.
Oh, I've read almost every single one of his books. They're
they're good. They really are.
Yeah, I remember you were talking that you actually also, there's a dream camp in the summer, or there used to be.
There's dream camp. So the Hayden Institute is, so here's a shout out to the Hayden Institute, which is where I went to Dream School and Spiritual Direction School. They have 2 programs. These are 2-year programs. One is in dream work, one is in spiritual direction. And then we have summer camp in May, the end of May. And that is a 5-day online, worked great this year. We've missed each other in person, but it was great. So you can go to haydeninstitute.com and look at the offerings.
And that's Hayden.
It's actually Haden.
Oh, okay. No, okay.
Hayden Institute. So, and I'm mentor there now. So I'm telling you, it just keeps getting better all the time. So
that's great.
Really impressive program.
And let's see if we have, are there any questions, just because it is getting closer to the end and I wanted to make time if anybody had questions.
Over to see if there's anything that,
see if anything has popped up. So we'll ask Alex behind the J. No. Okay.
Right.
I feel like I'm in the Wizard of Oz.
Very funny feeling. You know, let me just say this, that when we're doing our dream work, you know, we want to figure it out. We want to kind of master it because it's, you know, it's so weird. We want to make sense of it and kind of like, you know, crack the nut and like get to the kernel of it. And so much of dream work is really kind of just, well, how do you relate to that? So Carrie, do you want to talk about, like, we do dream art, and you don't have to be artistic. Like this is, I had a set last night. So these are my dream twigs. All right. I just take a stick out of the yard and wrap it with a color that has something to do with the dream itself. These are all powerful dreams. I'm just keeping these they're actually characters. I'm just keeping them in mind. All right. So here's one yellow girl. She's a little kid, so she's a little stick, and she's kind of right in the middle of things here. But that's the kind of thing that we do. Or we just keep something out so you remember. So for instance, somebody gave me this little gold piano as a Christmas ornament, but I thought, there's my piano, you know. So I'm going to just keep that where I remember it's in there. I don't have to be a pro at this. I don't have to dazzle people with the Chopin, you know, etude or something. Just play what's in there. And Carrie, you had something going. I wanted to
keep talking, and I'll go grab them and I'll show them.
So Carrie has been in a group, and you know, we paint a lot. You know, we don't actually do that in the group because we're all on Zoom, but you know, if you don't need skill, believe me, my stuff looks really pretty rudimentary, but it's all about putting the energy in a place where you're going to remember what you dreamt, because, you know, they're trying to get us to change deeply, to keep transforming into ourselves. So we forget that because we don't want to change, right? So if you can do something visible, or if you can integrate, for instance, emotion. I know somebody who dances her dreams in the mornings and just tries to get the feel of it. Say she dreamt about I don't know. I mean, she was telling me about dreaming about a mountain lion and dancing. How does it feel to be that? You know, what do we learn when we really embody the energy of that dream character? So Carrie, who has more talent than most humans.
Well, I can't find my favorite one for some reason. The favorite one disappeared, the swan dream. But I had I had a dream about the swan ball, and it, you know, when I went into it and what it signified. You know what it signified for me, and then I created this T-shirt with a swan on it, but I can't find that one. But so the first one was, it was about what was a dream? Remember, it was like with, you might remember better than me, with talking. Oh, well, people say I talk too much. Here you go. But I made a dream. The symbol of this dream, it was with lips. Oh, it was kissing. That was it. There was something about the dream about kissing, but it wasn't about, you know, it wasn't like a sexual dream. It was about, it was the significance of kissing
and all that. Yeah.
And kissing could be like, you kiss of death, kiss of, you know, the expression with the word kiss in it too. Right. Anyway, so I made a T-shirt with lips. And so when I wear it, I start to think about what did that dream mean to me? There was another dream where I was running and I was afraid and there were mobs of people, which seems, and I made a T-shirt and it was about running through my own fears though. And so when I wear this T-shirt, I think about my dreams. This other one was with a hat. I remember went into this place, and not getting into all my dreams, you know, in detail, but it was a person was like, they were just like this tiny little person with this hat, they had a hat on. And so I pulling a symbol from my dreams and making something and then wearing it. I was riding my bicycle wearing my T-shirt, and I just started thinking about the dream and what it meant to me and what it was trying to tell me. And so that's what I've been doing with my dreams. I'm actually going to sell them if anybody wants to buy them or have me make T-shirts for them of their dreams. I wanted to kind of maybe see if there was interest in that. So it led me to this whole other thing that I never saw coming, actually.
Well, creativity is we are all so creative, and the culture doesn't always promote that, right? And so one of the things that the dreams do is they provide the creativity and the energy for moving into that next phase of our lives. And so the creativity is just an important part of the work, right? Is to just tap into what the dreams are giving us, so that we are using the creativity we were born with. And in my case, it's not real pretty. I don't make pretty things. So, I mean, not that yours is pretty, but they look like, 2-year-olds would do it. But I used to teach 2-year-olds, I think it's pretty great what they do. So
it's usually the best because it's so raw and, right there. It's interesting though, the twigs to me, I love the way you wrap those twigs. I mean, I love that. I was just thinking about how twigs have such a life force, in them. Inanimate things have a life force, which is so symbolic. Like our dreams are a life force, and it's just interesting.
Right. Yeah, a tree is right here. Yeah, and so sometimes we'll get together and with a group, and we'll share the dreams, and we'll do dream theater for each other. I mean, they're made to be embodied and experienced and shared when the dreamer's ready. So for instance, in one group, the dreamer had a dream that she didn't really want to share. It was sort of painful and disturbing. We acted that out for her. And she told us how to move and where to stay. And she watched that dream, from its beginning to its end as we acted it out. And she was really moved. And then she stepped in and she played each character. We acted that dream out maybe 5 times. And she acted out each character. She acted out this door at the end. She acted out the snow that was falling. And it was just so powerful. She really understood way down deep, what that dream was offering her. And it was very potent, very powerful stuff she needed to see.
I remember when I went to the evening class that you spoke at USN, there was something that was really helpful. I found we're summing up now too. It's going so quickly, but you, and I think it's in your little green book, your pamphlet, the 6 questions you could ask, like the symbols that show up in your dream, right? Like if I took one of these, like a hat, and started to speak to the hat, right? And you could ask it 6 questions.
Yeah. So if you can just remember that everything in the dream is a part of you, is an energy in you, and it's pictured in this way in the dream. All right. Then what you can do is just interview these things. And so, for instance, the 6 magic questions that are in that little book, I didn't make them up, Bob Hoss did, but there are, what you do is you put yourself into, for instance, the hat. You become the hat. And then you watch what happens when asked these questions. The hat speaks these responses, and you surprise yourself at what comes from you as you are speaking for the dream object. And that really helps you see what that's about in your life and where you need to lean in and pay attention, what perhaps needs to be released, what needs to be balanced. Dreams help us balance, attitudes and perceptions, active. So they're here for our healing. They work on their own, but if you can participate consciously, it is this really direct line to profound growth for yourself and for the rest of us. You can do it for everybody. So
I think that's a great place to sum up our conversation. I would love, wouldn't it be great if everybody worked on themselves consciously? And it's a lot of work. I mean, I know I've been doing it my whole life. It's you gotta really kind of commit to your own growth and stick with it. But the rewards are like miracles happen. I love something that Carl Jung said, like people said, what miracles? He goes, miracles happen every day. Like they're all around us in ways that you might not think of a miracle. Like you think of all these cars driving, how many actually get into an accident? I mean, it's a miracle how life is just working in its way, moving. And, but I truly believe when people, I know for myself, working on myself, miracles do happen. And I feel like dream work can help us
The source, yeah. And I'll just leave one thing that Carl Jung says that I think is so important. And it's important now. This is stressful times. A lot of people aren't sleeping because they're so anxious. Me too. He said, the only thing that's really going to save us as a species is if each person does their inner work. That's what it's going to take. So this is a really beautiful, simple, natural way to do it. And that's the invitation. So. And
with your help, it's all attainable. So thank you so much for your time today. I feel like it was really so much. I felt like we just like little top, some of the lily pads. We just got the tiny top of the lily pads, but and I hope that it inspires people to work on themselves and their dreams, and of course reach out to you for coaching and assistance. And so thank you for your time to share yourself with our audience and all your knowledge.
What an honor. I love sharing this. This is my passion. And so I really appreciate the opportunity and welcome conversation. So.
And we hope to have you back again, maybe with some more specific, we can dive in a little bit deeper at some point down the road.
It'll be fun. Okay.
And thank you, Alex, behind the scenes. And tune in next Tuesday. Well, tune in Thursday for music and next Tuesday, and we'll see you then.